regular meeting of the St. Charles City County Library. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with the roll call.
Trustee Zucker?
Here.
Trustee Harden? Here. Trustee Gardner?
Here.
Trustee Giordano? Trustee Collier?
Here.
Trustee Seeds?
Here.
Trustee Tillman?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. All right, first we'll start off with public comments. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes. You would go ahead and approaching the microphone here. Is that where we're having them come to? All right, you approach the microphone over there. The first up is Brian Pablo, followed by Susan Wheeler.
Hello? Can you hear me okay?
No.
Hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys volunteering for service and helping shepherd, safeguard the library. My name is Brian Pablo. I am a St. Charles County resident as well as a librarian at the St. Charles City County Library District. I began here in February of 2020. Prior to that, I worked in multiple libraries. And one thing about libraries and librarians is that you don't go into a library trying to get rich. This isn't a job that you do for, you know, the glamour or the opulence. You do it because you care. You do it because you understand the value of the library to the community, and you understand that connecting the community to information is important, and it's key to the community's growth. It's key to meeting challenges, and it's key to building a better community for your children. When you think about a library, oftentimes people think of the collection, and the collection is a valuable tool. It's an important tool for the library, but it is not the library itself. The library is its workers. It's the library workers who connect with the community to understand the community's needs. It's the workers who find the information resources and gather them as part of the collection. It's the workers who connect the public to those resources and show them where to find them and how to use them. It's the workers who maintain the collection and make sure that it's usable for the most number of people possible. So when we talk about safeguarding the library, really we're also talking about safeguarding the employees and making sure that they can do their jobs. I'm here to ask you guys tonight to pass the salary structure with that in mind. As you know, prices have gone up in quite a bit lately, and our wages have not. And even though most of us do this not for the money, we do still have to pay our bills. We do still have to pay our mortgages, we have to pay rent, we have to pay doctor's bills, we've got children. And all of those prices have gone up, but our ability to pay for them has not. And it's come to a point where many of us have to choose between serving our community as library workers or paying our bills. Just today, I was talking with a couple of just separate coworkers, and both of them came up with the topic about how, you know, they've been doing this for a while and they want to keep doing it. We love our job. They love their job. But they can't find any place cheaper to live. And they still have to pay for things. One of them even said, depending upon how this goes, depends on whether or not they can keep working for the district. And you see that in our turnover rate. You see that in how understaffed our branches are. You see that in the impact it's had on our services. Because when we don't have enough employees to meet all of our needs at any level, I guess my time's up. Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
Thanks, Brian. Susan Wheeler, followed by Kevin Wheeler.
Hello, my name is Susan Wheeler. I was hired as a paraprofessional at Mindorf-Cordell branch 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was a volunteer there for 7 years. I'm currently stationed at Catherine Linneman branch during Mindorf-Cordell's renovations. A library's success is dependent on the community who supports it. This has been proven by the community support this year to save the 3 branches targeted for closure. With this success, we ask the community again for its support, this time for library staff. Library staff, on average, are paid 18% lower wages than the market rate. Turnover is high, the branches are understaffed. Morale is at an all-time low at some of the branches. I know this isn't what our community wants for the staff they love. For the staff who check out their books, read to their children, teach them new skills, or simply chat with them, giving them comfort during a challenging time they're experiencing. It's time for the board to enact the full implementation of the salary study. In addition, a structure must be put in place to keep staff pay equitable to the market rate in the future. There are additional changes the library will need to enact to bring back both a productive and compassionate workplace, regaining the trust of staff lost over the last several years. Voting yes today on the full and immediate implementation of the salary study is an excellent first step and will be well received by library staff. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Susan. Kevin Wheeler, and then Brian Rorta.
Hi, I'm here to, sorry, I'm loud, to deliver a message for another employee. That's my wife, Susan. Our friend Heather works for the library and wants to convey a message, but she's working at a library tonight, so she can't do that. She asked me if I would do that for her, so I'm just going to read what she passed along. So this is from Heather Weefel. She's a full-time adult services librarian at MK, but now working at the Mid-Rivers Mall branch. She said, I apologize I can't be there tonight, but I work Tuesday evenings for the library at the Mid-Rivers Mall branch. I'm going to be optimistic and believe that a salary increase will be passed this evening. I'm going to be optimistic and believe the board is capable of putting themselves in our shoes and imagining that it's their paycheck that's on the line. I'm optimistic because I know the library board understands how important our staff is to making sure the library stays a vital part of the community. Every day I see staff do amazing things, and yeah, we're rock stars at instilling a love of books and learning into children, but there are other things that you might not be aware of because they're kind of hard to convey on social media. Countless times a week, I see coworkers talk at length to a lonely senior citizen about the latest book that they read because they know they might be the only person that talks to that senior citizen in that given day. You might end up being in a position where you're talking to a person on the spectrum, describe in detail every spacecraft in the Star Wars universe. I see them help with older parents to help figure out the new iPhone that you got them, and you may not have the time or the ability to help them with it. And I could list countless other examples because I want you to understand that we do all of these things because we care. And because we know that in most cases, if we don't do them, nobody else will. We're the people standing guard to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks. I'm going to be optimistic and believe that you understand that our salaries should reflect that. And again, that's Heather Weefel. If I would add my 2 cents, it would simply be that we all have experiences in businesses where front-facing employees don't come first. And it can be hard, but they're the ones that provide the services. So my 2 cents would be to go along with the voices you've heard already and approve the measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin and Heather. We have Brian Rorta, and then finally Jason Schroeder.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank everybody involved in making the Library Foundation Gala possible. I never thought I'd go to something like that, but I went this year. I had a good time, saw a lot of friendly faces. I appreciate everyone in attendance. I'd like to specifically thank Ms. Tillman for her attendance and showing her support for the library as well, and encourage the entire board to try to make the next one if at all possible. It's been a little while since the last Future of the Library update. I'm a little curious if the library plan discussed in August is still on track. I know the past 2 library board meetings have been a little weird because of attendance. I don't know if anything has impacted that schedule or what's going on with that. Also on the subject of the library board, I'm a little disappointed to see that we still don't have a full complement of board members. I hope someone's talking to the mayor of St. Charles City about that. I'm a county resident, not a city resident. I don't know if that's my place, but hopefully someone's got his ear. And I will once again voice my support for a tax increase to get these people the pay they deserve. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Jason.
At the August board meeting, it was brought up that the trustees should consider forming a financial committee to keep a closer eye on the library spending. And I believe that this is a necessity to scale back on the recent one-way spending on once and to put the focus on where the needs are in our district. For example, in 2019, a group of library staff members and board trustees spent 7 months identifying the biggest needs in our district, and in December of that year passed a facilities master plan to guide future capital spending. In this plan, the 4 mid-sized branches were indicated as most in need of work and were marked for the first wave of renovations, but this did not happen. Yet, library leadership still indicated at meetings as recently as this summer that these 4 branches remain the most in need of routine maintenance and general upkeep. But out of the $11 million allocated to capital projects between fiscal years 23 and 25, only $140,000 went to these 4 branches combined, barely 1% of all capital spending during those 3 years. At the August board meeting, the CEO claimed that he would be insubordinate if his spending habits didn't align with the strategic master plan. Is spending millions of dollars annually on capital projects that go against the facilities master plan not also insubordination? We heard at multiple board meetings last year from the previous board president that the one goal the board set for the CEO to accomplish in fiscal year 24 was to implement the salary structure change. This did not happen. Yet, at this August board meeting, when a trustee asked about the unprecedented increase of $700,000 in material spending last fiscal year, the reply was there was extra revenue to dedicate to electronic media. Spending priority went to the want of increasing the quantity of digital materials offered rather than going toward the need, and the board assigned goal of increasing employee salaries, which still remain unchanged, but hopefully not for much longer. At the end of the August meeting, the CEO stated confusion as to why so many in the community believed that the library is facing a financial crisis. It could be because just 3 months earlier at a special board meeting, after citing year-old budget projections as fact, the CEO claimed of our financial position that, quote, without changes, we will be spending more to keep our doors open than we will be collecting in revenue. We would go bankrupt, end quote. It was then proposed the library cut 60 positions with 1 month severance and permanently close 3 of those 4 neglected mid-sized branches. Yet, closing branches and laying off staff must have also just been a want and not a need, as we finished the fiscal year 1 month later with revenue that was $5.5 million higher than operating expenses. The gap between those figures was 21%, not the 5% the CEO claimed at the special meeting. Now all branches are fully funded and the salary increase is finally on the agenda. No drastic changes necessary. Our district needs leadership that advocates for the needs of all over the wants of a few. And if a finance committee forms, I hope the trustees serving on that keep that in mind, as you will have to be the ones to ensure that those needs are met. As for the salary increase, I hope that you vote to implement it in full, as it is a need that could have and should have been met a long time ago. Thank you.
All right, those are all the public comments for this evening. We'll start with the reports and correspondence, the Chief Financial Officer's report.
So I've included in your packet the month of September, so we're our way through the fiscal year. I'm going to speak to the summary schedule that I provide, the very first one. With last month, revenue is pretty much on track for what's year to date until we receive our full fund.
Excuse me, Ms. Wolf, would you hold for a second? Is there a adjustment to the audio here so we can hear what she's saying?
Sure.
Project.
I've been asked to project, so I will project. So as far as the revenue, we're on track as far as year to date. It's minimal. As of January, we'll be receiving the bulk of our tax funds. As far as our expenditures, we've had some increased hiring, so we're almost at 90% for salaries and benefits. Library materials is on track. It's pretty much consistent year to year. The technology and the other operations are a little bit behind, and I think that's primarily due to the equipment and furniture that you'll see as far as purchases later in the year. The capital outlay, we're slightly behind on the MK renovation. It's projected to be done mid-February, so you're seeing a lag in the payments there. So we're only at about $1 million year to date on that one. You'll notice that I've included a line this time as far as the 50% general fund reserve policy requirement to show you that the 50% is of the budgeted expenditure amount for the year. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
So just to kind of, for the new members here, when we're looking at this document, of the far two right columns are what we're looking at, really. The middle one is what was budgeted year to date for this fiscal year and what we've actually seen. You can kind of get caught up in the weeds if you look at the budgeted number because we don't receive the tax revenues until January. And so really we're looking at those two right columns and just seeing how we're doing each month in comparison to what we budgeted we would be doing year to date so far.
Then the second page of that report is the projection as far as our facility needs. That's projected out through 2029. So that relates to a facilities assessment that we did.
In terms of Mid and North Cordell, we do progress payments on the construction. So because they're behind, we haven't done as many progress payments as we expected to do.
That's correct.
Does anybody have any questions related to the information that has been presented thus far?
Why are they behind?
So we have found some issues. We're addressing both the HVAC as well as building envelope issues. They found some things, it's like when they actually opened up the walls. So we've had to make some decisions which have delayed some of what we've been intending to do and pretty much the budgeted schedule.
Were there any change orders related to that work? Yeah.
There are.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll get to that.
CEO report.
And that's on top of the change order that we approved in March? Is that when we approved that?
For the HVAC?
Yes.
Yes.
HVAC is March, and then we had to address the wall to the children's area, the entrance, and the new bathroom area.
We have a new audio system. Work in progress. All right, work in progress. So
Apparently, it's my voice that's actually.
yeah, you gotta be loud, I guess, is the words of wisdom.
Maybe the projector is bouncing.
Any questions or anything else related to the CFO's report? Okay. Chief Communication and Engagement Officer report.
Hopefully you guys have seen the patio out front at Spencer. It is finally completed and we've seen programming happening and people enjoying it. But the reason I'm bringing it up from a marketing communication side is that we'll be hosting a ribbon cutting in the coming weeks, and you guys will receive an invitation to that as soon as we're ready to announce that date. And I also just wanted to remind you that this funding for this patio cover was made possible partially by the Library Foundation. So we're very grateful to them for that. Also, we have one social media person that kind of handles all of our channels that we do. And last month, she hosted a content creator training because, as you know, it's hard to get to all of the locations and really represent them all. So we had a lot of wonderful staff members step up and raise their hand and say we'd like to be able to help represent our branch. And so she hosted a training and what makes a good, what represents our voice, how to do it. They actually produced videos that will end up becoming part of our social media. They're on the calendar already to go out. But this really empowers staff to be represented and make sure that we're reaching all of the places that we can.
So that individual at those unique branches then that's doing the social media work, they're creating the content and providing it back to this social media person?
Yes, so it's all vetted through the marketing department. Any questions?
Hearing none. Chief Administrator Officer report.
There's so much good stuff in the report that I encourage you to read it, and we're not going to go through everything. I do have a few people who are going to talk. Before I do that, I want to thank the staff who came tonight to speak about the salary study. That's all of our staff, meaning they're speaking for all of our staff. So thank you for doing that. The people who are gonna speak tonight, we've got Erin, the regional manager at Catherine Lindeman branch, Allison from McClay, she's the branch manager, and Maggie, the director of adult and youth services.
Great. Hello, board. Can you hear me? Am I projecting enough? Does that work? Okay. I'm Aaron. I'm the regional branch manager at Catherine Lindeman, and I'm talking to you tonight about our lunch in the library program. And so some of you may know about it, so we have a lot of new people, so just trying to teach you. Every summer, we feed kids at the library, and it is a collaboration with Operation Food Search. Kristen Sherry from the outreach department finds out which branches qualify. This past year, it was just Catherine Lindeman, but we've had other branches that have qualified in the past. And so for 11 weeks in the summer, a combination of staff and volunteers pass out food, no questions asked, noon to 1, Monday through Friday. And this past year, we fed just over 1,600 children at the Catherine Lindeman location. I fed about 1,100 the year before. One of the questions we often get are, why aren't you doing this at every single branch throughout the district? And really, it's a federally funded program, and you have to qualify based on need in the community and things like that. So right now, there's just one branch that qualifies. That's why we only do it at one branch. But it's been an amazing program. I think anytime you can meet the physical needs in the community in that way, that's an amazing thing. It's one of the favorite things that we do at the branch and in the district. And I think just in terms of the impact in our community, some of these students during the school year, their school lunch is one of the main ways that they get food. And so to be able to help fill that gap during the summertime, I think is amazing. And I think the other thing that we've seen as an impact is families bringing their children to the library to eat because they have to eat on library property, meeting one another and forming community from that, seeing them meet new families for the first time who didn't know each other, coming and then going to the children's area to play. We're saying, let's set up a play date at the park. And I think that's the power of libraries, and when we do cool programs, it brings the community together and further creates community from that. So just wanted to share that we do that. We'll continue to do that as long as we qualify.
Thanks, Aaron. You mentioned 1,600 children, 1,600 meals.
Yes.
Okay. And then it's also, is it based off the free and reduced school lunch program? Is that how it's configured?
I believe that's how the qualification is. And what it does is, so Operation Food Search delivers us meals a couple of times a week, and we have fridges set aside specifically for this program, and so we keep food cool, and then we have some shelf-stable food as well that they provide us with. But yeah, I think that's how we qualify as an open site, but we don't ask any questions. You don't have to provide ID. You just come in. If you're up to the age of 18 and ask for a meal, we'll give it to you.
Thanks, Aaron. Any other questions for Aaron? Seeing none. Allison?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a low talker. I'm really gonna try hard here. And I'm not as good off the cuff as Aaron, so I have notes, lots of notes. So good evening. My name's Allison. I'm the manager of the McClay branch. And if you haven't been, we are located at the intersection of Hackman and McClay Roads, just down the street from Francis Hall North High School. If you ever want to stop by, I'm happy to give you a tour, and we probably have baked goods in the break room for you too. So we are one of the 4 mid-sized branches, along with Corporate Parkway, Deer Run, and Kisker. Last fiscal year, we welcomed 114 visitors through our doors, and we presented 475 classes for all different ages. So much like other branches, we have a small but mighty staff. We have some librarians and supervisors in our branches, but a majority of our public services staff are library associate 1s and 2s. So since you're looking at salaries this evening, I wanted to explain a little bit more about what these staff do on a daily basis. Because even members of my own family don't fully understand what we do at the library. They think we just check books in and out, put them back on shelves, do a story time, and that's it. But in addition to all the regular challenges of a normal customer service job, like triaging during busy times, dealing with frustrated customers. There's a lot more to it. Some of the staff here already gave some examples. So on a daily basis, our staff are serving people with severe, often untreated mental health issues, including paranoia, traumatic brain injury. We have individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's that we help. Libraries are one of the few places that welcome people experiencing homelessness, which presents unique challenges for staff. Chiefly having to explain to other customers that that are people experiencing homelessness are allowed in the library. So everyone's welcome and entitled to library services, which means staff are helping people from all walks of life. So my staff have helped previously incarcerated individuals apply for jobs online. As Heather mentioned, we are sometimes the only outlet for elderly or socially isolated people. And then we're regularly de-escalating the natural tensions that happen when you have many different groups in one building. So at Maclay, we're just one big large room, kind of like this, and we have excellent acoustics, I would say. So at any given moment, you might have 25 kids under 5 running around doing a scavenger hunt over here. You have ladies knitting and socializing over here. Then you have a man trying to read the newspaper over here. You have a neurodivergent student over here being tutored. And then you have people trying to focus on the computer. So helping all these different groups at one time requires excellent customer service, as well as, I would say, heightened situational awareness and sometimes strong resilience. So staff's responsibilities are manifold, and they've become exceedingly more complex as our community changes. And this is wonderful. We love this. This is great. And it means that all levels of staff, even entry-level associate ones, are able to help people at these critical moments in their life. So I asked my staff to just share some recent examples of ways that they've done that. And I've anonymized them to protect our customers' privacy, but I'm just gonna share those really quick, just 3 quick examples. First, a middle-aged woman came to ask for help completing a renewal application for her apartment. Soon after we started helping her, she was in tears, revealing that she was too embarrassed to tell the leasing agent that she couldn't read or write. Her husband had recently died, and the library was the only place she could think of to go. So staff helped her complete the form by asking her the questions on it and then helping her fill in the answers so she could stay in her apartment. The next story, we helped a young family for whom English is their second language. They have 2 young children, both elementary school, who attend school but are struggling with learning English. Because the language barrier was so strong, we were able to talk to the parents using Google Translate app to learn more about what they were asking. We were then able to find dual language early reader books for the family to take home and practice with. And the last story, a person came in noticeably nervous and afraid and asked staff for help filing an order of protection because they could not afford a lawyer. So library staff cannot practice law, but they were able to help them apply for free assistance through Legal Services of Eastern Missouri. They then were able to check out a meeting room for them so that they could talk to a case manager over the phone. And then they were also able to help them get online and book an extended stay hotel room for the rest of the week. So I think every manager here would agree that these examples and more are par for the course at all of our branches on any given day. So staff are doing much more than just checking out books and putting them on the shelves. And I really thank you for listening, and I hope this helps illuminate, especially for the newer board members, some of the important and complex work that we're doing in our public services.
Thank you, Allison.
So hard to follow that. To just a couple things from the report for adult youth services. The library received the Missouri Library Association Access and Innovation Grant in September. It was announced at this year's Missouri Library Association Conference. and this will fund investing in recording devices to use in programming for our community, but also to check out to cardholders for a community oral history initiative. This was in partnership with the Collection Services Department. So we're excited about that. It's just under $5,000 grant. Another thing, the library designated September for diaper donations. We started handing out diapers to people in need in August out of this branch, out of Spencer, when Spencer reopened. And as part of that, it's funded by the Friends of the Library. Thank you to the Friends. But as part of that partnership, we need to do it once a year drive. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll do it in September. And the community came out in droves. We received over 20,000 donated diapers, actually 25,000 donated diapers, that the St. Louis Area Diaper Bank had to send not one, but 2 vans and loaded to the top of diapers. So we're incredibly proud of this community and the support they showed to the library and to just people in need. So thank you, St. Charles County. And then lastly, something that wasn't in the report, but something that's exciting is I'm pleased to share that I nominated Carol Schrei, our Director of Collection Services, for the Loggers Local Hero Award this year. I had no idea how intense the selection process was and how much Carol herself would have to follow up with additional answers to questions. But I'm excited to relay that she was narrowed down to the top 7 and has since been named one of the top finalists. I was told she was narrowly beaten out as the winner by just 1 vote. That's pretty huge because Loggers is the retirement system, our retirement system, that also serves all sorts of other organizations, including police, firefighters, paramedics, and other local government entities. So for Carol to be beaten out by just 1 vote is pretty huge. So here's just a little excerpt of what I've submitted for her nomination. Carol has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership and professionalism. Her extensive experience in library services has equipped her with the knowledge and expertise to navigate complex challenges while maintaining the highest standards of service. Carol's dedication extends beyond her immediate role. Her efforts help ensure that the library continues to serve as a vital resource for information and learning. Her tireless efforts have been instrumental in helping to maintain the library's status as a cornerstone of knowledge and discovery for our community members. So,
you're allowed to smile, Carol. Thank you, Maggie. Any questions for?
I just have one more thing to share, and that is in August we formed a work enrichment team. And they're called the WE team, and the WE team has been meeting every 2 weeks since then. It's a group of 10, and 7 of which are frontline staff. And the focus is how do we shift the culture? How do we make it a compassionate, safe environment for our staff? And so 2 things that they've already accomplished, I'm amazed at how well this group works. And actually Susan, who spoke earlier, is one of the members, but they have created a mechanism for staff to give feedback directly to them. So they're giving feedback to their peers rather than being concerned where that feedback goes to a manager. So we're excited that they've started that. The other thing that we are about to roll out is we have a staff recognition program that we've had for a while, but they have updated it, they've reimagined it, and it's also going to be available for community members to recognize staff and complete staff recognition forms. And that'll be on the website, and information will come out about that. So they have hit the ground running. So it's exciting.
Thank you. Any questions, Chief Administrative Officer? Seeing, hearing none. Chief Executive Officer's report.
All right, thank you. So as Julie mentioned, we are looking at a mid-February completion for the Midland-Friedel branch. I included some pictures there. They are making quite a lot of progress. One of the delays, though, had to do with the opening into the youth area. So if you look at on the front, the middle picture on the right-hand side, one of the actually major components of this renovation was to expand the restrooms. This is our busiest location. They were way undersized. So the restrooms are being expanded out into what is the opening into the youth area, which would necessitate moving the opening of the youth area over to the left there, and you can see that in the bottom two images. What was unexpected was that is the former exterior wall of the building, because it wasn't finished in the way that one would have expected if that were the case. It is not an interior wall. So what they discovered is that, and this speaks to the change order, they need to sort of demo that masonry, provide another lintel, and shore that wall. It was, for all appearances, it was an interior wall that wasn't going to need to happen to. And it's kind of, there's a number of inconsistencies with that building that they've discovered. All the drywall is 1/2 inch, for example, instead of 5/8. So that has, thrown a little bit of a wrinkle in things, but it also, I think, speaks to, we had terrible soundproofing, and that's one of the reasons why. So having to undo some former choices that were made. So any questions about that? Okay. The other sort of, I think, big thing is I here have outlined the remainder of the Mid-River Mall branch, as I mentioned in a couple meetings past. The usage of that location really dropped. It was very well used when this building was closed, but once this building reopened, we saw the usage decline significantly. So we are transitioning out of that space. We stopped Sunday operation at the end of September, and the final day of regular library service will be the Saturday before Thanksgiving on November 23rd. We are excited though, because the Friends of the Library are going to use the space 2 weekends in December to have mini book fairs there. So when there are holiday shoppers at the mall, we'll be able to use the space for that and raise some money. So that is exciting. We're happy they were able to do that, and they're excited to do it. So. And then the rest of the report you can read. Can I answer any questions?
Seeing none, we'll go to the statistical report.
I did just want to spend a little bit of time, since we have new trustees here, to go over what this report represents, and really kind of hit the 3 charts. So the top 2, the monthly use comparison for September and the year-to-date use comparison for September. This gives an indication of overall library use as a whole. One of the things we run into is you report circulation, and you report attendance, and you report gate count, and you report all of the things that the library does separately, which a lot of libraries do, and we absolutely keep those things. What can get lost in there is library use going up or is library use going down? And so a couple years ago, we started just adding that number together. Basically, the number itself is meaningless. What is meaningful is to compare how it compares to previous years. So that's what those 2 are. And then at the bottom, that is the year-to-date gate count per hour of operation. We have differing hours for our different locations. So comparing just sort of raw gate count numbers doesn't give us an idea of sort of when they're open, which are busier. So, but the point I want to highlight here is because I've heard some confusion out there about why the past year's numbers have changed. This is year to date. So it's September. So this is fiscal year, so July, August, September. So for 22, 23, 24, and 25, it is only those months. And then next year, it will be those 3 months plus November. So every time you see this, the numbers are going to change for each of the years. So I want to make sure everyone understand that it is year to date. It's not cumulative. The past years don't show a full year. So in terms of what the numbers show, I think we're seeing really a lot of consistency among, like, you could look at Cliffview, 24, 25 so far are almost exactly the same. We're seeing now that Mittendorf-Cradell is closed. You see Kisker Road and Winghaven see pretty significant bumps in their use, which makes sense, and Deer Run as well. So those are really the highlights there. Is there anything I can answer for you?
Seeing none. Thank you, Jason, for the report. Correspondence, we don't have any, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes for approval. To approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the formal agenda, unfinished business. First is 25-04 salary study implementation.
So I'll just give a few introductory remarks. We've talked about this for so long. In the memo, one of the things I did is kind of do a history that this really began back in June of 2022 when we released an RFP for salary plan consultant services, and you can see there the sort of the timeline on that up until the August meeting. So really what we're asking for are two pieces, or two specific motions. One is to approve the revision to policy E512, which is the salary schedule itself. And then the second motion would be to fully implement that salary study by not only approving the structure, but using JER's recommendations of where to place each employee on that structure. And as a reminder, that was always done with calculation based upon what is most advantageous to the employee based upon either their time with the library or their time experience brought in from other places. Those two things really have to happen in tandem. If you look at the chart on page 3, this is the current distribution of salaries across grades. So the existing structure are numerical grades 6 through 34. And you can see that about 49% of our staff are below midpoint. And midpoint is really what a salary structure is based upon, the midpoint of each grade, because that is where a fully qualified individual should be placed. And so 49% of staff are below midpoint, 24% are at midpoint but below maximum, and we have 27% of staff that are currently earning above maximum. And that has happened because we have, over the past 2 years, while this action was pending, we have given 1 year a 10% increase, 1 year a 5% increase without updating the schedule itself. So that has resulted in a number of folks being above maximum. If you turn the next page, on page 4, that chart shows the new structure, which has alpha grades, so grade A down through BB, and sort of approving the revision to policy E512, which is the salary schedule, but not doing a corresponding adjustment, would actually have 60% of our staff below the minimum for that grade. So, and an additional 30% below the midpoint. So that's essentially saying 90% of our staff are not, would not be compensated for what equals a fully qualified employee in that job. And then there would just be an additional 10% at midpoint, and no one would be at maximum or above. So, and then on page 5 would be the distribution with full implementation. And you see what would be expected there given the composition of our staff. We'd have 57% below midpoint. We'd have 28% at midpoint but below maximum, and 15% at or above maximum, but really they'd just be at maximum.
Just clarification.
Yeah.
Nobody would be below the minimum.
Nobody would be below
Okay.
the minimum.
All right, sorry. You said 57% below minimum.
Sorry, below midpoint.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, no one would be below minimum, 57% between minimum and midpoint. And then an additional 28 between midpoint and maximum. And then another 15% at maximum. So, I mean, that was it very quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think, you know, you've heard from us over the course of a couple of years now. You've heard from staff, as Tiffany said. I think the staff that you've heard from really represent our entire staff. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think there's going to be, we have 2 new members on the board here, obviously, working through a lot of this information.
Yeah.
So we make sure everybody understands, you know, this process and what we're working through as we go through it before we do a vote. So I'll kind of open up to the board. Is there any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Trustee Zucker.
Let me preface my questions with a confession. I have pored over the documents and I don't understand their content sufficiently to say, aha, I agree with that. Okay. And I think the City Council in St. Charles is going to approve a new appointee sometime tonight, who I understand has an accounting background, a former CFO, and Mayor Borgmeyer described him as a forensic accountant. I can't wait. So I'll express my sentiment now, and then we'll get into some detail. My sentiment is the pay raise that is in the budget should be approved and implemented, effective at least tonight, for those people who are on staff tonight. I realize that skews in some fashion, which is beyond my grasp. It skews where the salaries might fall according to the consultant's proposals. So one of the questions I have is, how bad a train wreck would that be? Second question is, you said that currently, if the pay raise is implemented, then 24% of the staff would be above maximum.
We'll be at maximum. Sorry.
At maximum. All right. Well, wrote above, but
yeah, I said at or above, but it
with you.
It would be 15%.
15%.
15% would be at or above.
That's if the salary restructure is implemented. But what I heard was if the 7% pay raise is implemented, then 24% of staff would be above max.
Not quite. Actually, 27% are already above max. So
we raise their pay and the above max will shrink.
No,
it'll get worse.
It'll get worse.
But because we haven't moved the grade.
I got you.
that they're in.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that I don't understand.
Okay, perfect.
Right?
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, none of us are saying those folks are overpaid. We're saying that as this process has been pending, we left the structure itself frozen. And for folks who are at max, they still got the increase.
So if we implement the full, both number 1 and 2, like you said, what percentage of employees will get no raise?
None.
There'll be none that will get no raise?
Correct.
Yes,
Everyone get it right, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it out because you're talking about the 7%. If we just give that to everybody, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get a higher raise than they would have, and some that are going to get less than they would have, right?
No. I'm not. I haven't mentioned the 7%.
I know. We're discussing the 7%, but you just said it would take more people to max if we went to it. You just did say that. So.
Of the current structure.
Not the new.
That's
Not
what I'm
the
saying.
new
If we don't change the structure,
Correct.
if we just do the 7%, I'm trying to figure out is will some people actually get higher raise than 7% if we did the implementation?
No, in fact, when we passed the budget, that question was asked, and in those budget materials, I prepared that and showed that no one would have gotten a higher raise than they would.
All right, I've got another question then, because believe me, it's tough to confess my difficulties here. If we implement the consultant's salary structure, is the expenditure equal to or greater than the 7% raise that's in the budget has not yet been implemented?
Greater than.
Greater.
Yes.
How much?
Quite a bit.
How much?
Quite a bit, right?
It's quite a bit, yeah, it's in the materials.
I'm adjusting about it. I'm trying to figure this out. If we do the full implementation, 1 and 2, will there be some people that get less than 7% increase?
No. No, like I said, when we brought forward that 7%,
I understand.
That just shows you how out of
Okay,
balance
that's
we
what I
are.
want to hear.
Our
It shows
low.
up, it was so out of balance at the 7%.
Yeah,
right. So,
Really
and that was done because the percentage, I think, was 18% needed to even get close to people getting to where the
Right.
new grades were, and we decided as a board, hey,
Right.
7%'s a good way to
Yeah, I
get
just wanted
there.
to make sure that we didn't have some employees that wanted one system and one wanted the other.
No,
Because it
right.
then caused more.
Understood.
no one would.
Okay.
Okay, that's
back-
why I just wanted to make sure that was clear that there's.
Yeah, we're not leaving anybody behind. All right, let's go back to Trustee Zucker's question here. And I have to rephrase it because implement the study is 2.1. Is that right? Goal.
So it would be about, so if we were talking about a full year, it would have increased, it's about 1.85 million. Yeah, so it obviously would not be that, well, unless we did retroactive, yeah. So yeah, it would be about 1.85 million more, and that is salary and benefits.
More than the 7%, or just
No.
1.8?
More than the, yes, more than what is currently in the budget, which includes the 7%.
All right, okay.
And I'm sorry I keep harping on this. Where is that money coming from?
Well, so if you refer to several months back, we prepared some scenarios, and obviously it would work for this year. Yeah, here it is. And I mean, really, you have to project out what revenue increases are or what expenditure increases are. So, I mean, in fiscal '25, looking at the budget that was presented for fiscal '25, it would bring we would be at about $224,000 surplus still if it were implemented in '25. Now, depending on what revenue numbers look like for next year or expenditures look like for next year, we could be at a deficit, but you look at if there was a 1% revenue increase and a 2% expenditure increase, we'd be at about a $20,000 deficit. So we would obviously find $20,000 in our budget. If it went more significant than that, and say we had a 1% revenue increase and something much higher than that, it would be a more significant. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we would have to be very, very careful as we budget year to year. And yes, it would require certainly some sacrifices down the road.
Not increasing services to other areas that might need increasing services.
I mean, potentially, these are operating expenditures, so it is year to year. I will say, and we're still in negotiations looking at our healthcare for next year, but we're working with our broker. We have a meeting scheduled tomorrow. They have been negotiating. We're looking at about a 15% increase for healthcare next year. So that's a couple $100,000. So there would need to be cuts made, certainly. I will say that I think, as you've heard from the staff, though, it's the right thing to do.
Well, at the present time, I think we're at 90% staffing. Is that correct? There's about 10%.
We're about 86%, I think you said. Yeah, right around that. Yeah.
And if all of those positions were filled, is that the budget we're looking at, or are we projecting it based upon the number of employees that we currently have?
We budgeted this, yeah, it's for all the positions, starting in January. So we budgeted for the vacancies to be filled beginning.
Full employment?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. This is pretty tough. I can't figure out what the reserve is and whether there is an irreducible level at which the reserve must be maintained. And as you can anticipate, if we were at a point where we could not tap a reserve, then that imposes constraints on the decision-making that would be different from a circumstance where you had surplus reserve that would give you a year or 2 years to work out the kinks in a cost growth environment. So where are we in the surplus reserve, available reserve?
So right now, we have about 24 million as far as what we look at as liquidity or cash investment. So that really is what our general fund balance is, the 24, just shy of $25 million. So that 50% that I included as far as the required emergency reserve based on budgeted expenditures, that sits at basically $11 million right now. So out of the 25, 11 is.
Maybe get that taken a look at.
Out of the 25, that 11 is the emergency piece of it.
We'll talk about the audio system a little bit later.
So one thing you need to remember though with our reserve.
So can I finish, please?
Oh, go ahead.
So I can. Sure. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
Is that sure?
So 11 of the 25 is that 50%. We need an additional, at this time, 6 million as far as our cash operating because of our fiscal year, July through June, to operate through January. So that 11 million plus the 6 is 17. So that leaves about 8 million. So that 8 million right now is covering that just shy of $7 million reserve that we have for facilities, and that's through 2029. So basically, we can deficit spend, use our reserve, but it would really, it's like depending on how many years without an operating levy increase, it would take from any of the basically maintenance, et cetera. Would result in deferred maintenance. So we would be operating off of that basically. That's just shy of basically $7 to $8 million. That's what we'd have to work with.
So the eternal debate, is it a revenue problem or a spending problem? And the answers are not, in my opinion, discernible tonight. And I think with a fully staffed board, it will take us some time to definitively answer the question, revenue, expenses, or a little bit of both. If there is a need for significant reduction in outlays, that's got to be understood and socialized with the public over a period of many months. If the conclusion is we need revenue, that has to be socialized with the public over many months. And I've done it in Garden Prairie, and other people have done it. The school boards manage to get it done on a pretty regular basis, but that's because most of the voters have kids, and they're in touch with the school pretty intimately. Not so much for the library district. So if the board concludes that we need more revenue, that will take a while to explain to the public. So the reason for asking Julie about how much money we have in the piggy bank is that if we raise salaries, and that drives us above our annual revenue, how long can you keep that up before you're in trouble? That's what I'm asking.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
At the city of Jordan Prairie, did you guys ever do a comp and class study?
A what?
A comp and class study for your employees?
Yes.
Compensation classification, okay.
Yes.
So you've been through this process with the city of Jordan Prairie?
It was initiated on my watch and completed on my successor.
Okay.
But we did have identified need for investment in parks, and we looked at our budget and we couldn't afford it. So we reached out to the public over the course of about a year to solicit their interest in expanding parks and recreation services, and a lot of public meetings on it, and then we put it to their vote, and they approved it.
Okay, in terms of employee salaries though, did you guys engage in a study to look at your salaries compared to other
Oh,
municipalities
yeah,
in the
we
area?
hired an outside consultant.
Okay, and they provided a report?
They provided a report which was implemented in some fashion by the succeeding administration.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions for staff at the moment?
Don't think I have questions for the staff, but I'll throw out a couple of notions to stimulate conversation among the trustees. I'm prepared to vote for a 7% raise that is in the budget. I'm prepared to vote to postpone a decision on the salary study until we can dig into it some more and understand it at a greater depth than I think has been achieved by the board. And could be optimistic and say, let's take this up at the November meeting. But that means we have to get on it, which means we'll be coming to see you. Couple of nuances, and I'm open to conversation on this. Make the pay raise effective October 1st, October 15th. I thought about July 1st, since that's what was in the budget. I'm open to conversation about that. If we're looking to having to spend more than the 7% that's already in the budget, then I might lean a little bit to October 1st. And I'd be interested to hear from other trustees on this.
Okay. Is there any other questions first from any members for the administration? Yeah.
Wasn't this,
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me
Yeah.
down there?
I can't hear you.
I thought the 7% had been approved a few months ago. Was it not?
With the budget. It was approved with the budget.
The budget, so when was it supposed to start?
It was approved with the budget with the caveat that we not implement it until further study could be done. So that was the motion.
Okay, I misunderstood.
So the budget itself was approved with the 7% in it, but we were directed not to award the 7% until additional options could be prepared and considered.
I was under the understanding it was supposed to start like in July. Is that when the
That's when the budget would have started. So that's in the budget, it is as though it starts in July. Yes.
So it's the 7%, if we would approve the 7% tonight, would that backdate to July?
If that's a motion that's made.
I mean, it's in the budget for the year,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, it would not be overspending. I mean, it is what is in the budget.
Right, okay. I, like Dave, I have been just kind of overwhelmed with all of this because this is new to me. Now the total employees, it's based on 245 or 245.
Yeah.
I'd seen something somewhere else with a lesser amount.
We're,
FTEs.
we're at 248 right now,
Okay.
total employees.
Okay, oh, maybe I was looking at full-time.
FTE. That's just.
Yeah, FTEs would be lower.
Okay. But that doesn't bring down, that doesn't all go in there for the median, bring that down, does it?
No.
I guess I was just confused because when it's across the board like that, it's just such a varying salary and we don't know. I've never worked in, I work in a big company. And it's like 8,000 employees, not everybody gets, And I would have thought it would have been people in the lower pay, it should have been brought up.
That's what the salary study is.
Yeah.
That's what the salary study is.
Well, I understand that, but it's, those people, if it's that low, why would they not get 10% and the other people
Because
3%?
somebody has to decide that. That's why the salary study.
So if I could, so two things. One of the things that would do is it would cause compression, but I will say that might be in here. I brought that forward as an option as well, using quartiles to the board. That would do exactly that, give the people the lower, higher rate. So that has been an option the board has considered as well, and also did not.
Came back with the flat.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, because that creates compression where situations where employees working for other individuals happen to be making now more the person that they're reporting to. So you just really start to, if you just piece it together one at a time, it starts to affect overall the entire employee base. So it's either, at least in the way that I've looked at it, it's kind of an all or nothing type of thing. So, in my opinion. Go ahead.
What I have a question on is the 10% or 12% of employees that are budgeted are not filled. As you're saying, we're at 88%. I thought that's what you corrected. You said 90, and I thought you said no, it's 80.
I actually couldn't hear your question, I'm sorry.
What percentage of the 248 is not filled? Is it
14%.
14% is not filled. Do we have do you have a number of how much that salary is of those 14%? Is it spread out through higher, mid, and lower all throughout the whole thing? Because at this point, I'm for approving both policies of revision of the policy and authorization to fully implement it. Based on the knowledge that we have, that 14% that is open to be used as a sort of reserve. So what I would ask that is if, at that point, I don't know if I want to say we want to do a hiring freeze on those 14%, or do we want to do a case-by-case approval of not each individual employee. I understand that would be too micro. But if you say, look, there's these 10 spots, we've got through this pay study a couple of months, we want to implement 10 people or 15 more people. Unless you're just, if you know, we can trust you. Tell us you're not going to go out and hire 14% tomorrow.
Definitely
I think
won't.
that's a real, to me, it helps me to think you're going to have some flexibility to be able to deal with it as it's budgeted, but it's not being spent. Now, like if we approve this and tomorrow you hire all 14%, then we will have some problems maybe during the implementation, but we might not. It is budgeted for that. But I like that flexibility. And, you know, I mean, this was old when I came on the board a year ago. And that's the thing. This has been voted on like how many times by previous boards?
It's not been
No,
voted on
no,
before.
correct.
It's discussed and
That's
talked,
what
it's discussed and talked about a
Oh,
million times. That's
certainly.
what I mean. You were given the instructions to do this study how many years ago?
22, in not 22 years, but in
22 years.
I do want to say with that 14% that we're talking about, you're talking about it's going to negatively impact branches. I just want to say that because right now with the positions that aren't filled, it's because MK is closed. and those staff are at other branches, and the minute MK opens, that pulls out a lot of staff from other branches. And I know that we've heard earlier, Brian mentioned it, who's a librarian, and said we're short staffed now. So I just want to bring that up. I don't want that to be missed.
The option is they stick where they're at.
Well, I will also say we will never be fully staffed. I think we all know that. There's always vacancies.
That's the balance we're always gonna have, and with 70% of our budget is always gonna be salaries, right? So anytime we're gonna be short revenue and expenses go up, there's gonna be cuts in the workforce at any business, at any government agency. And that can either be through leaving positions open to get through that process, or it'll be a reduction in workforce. I mean, that's how everybody has to do it.
I think part of my statement was also to make sure I heard you correctly, that the directive from the board would be not to fill those positions, because
I'm saying it's an option for, say a 60-day or so. I don't know. I'm saying if that's what it takes to get this passed tonight, that's what I'm saying I would be open to. If it doesn't, if we have 5 votes, to do it this way, I'm for that now.
Now I've got a question. If the board approves execution of the 7% raise that's in the budget, and you tell us that that if and when the salary change is implemented, there will be compression. There will be compression with the 7%, and then if the salary recommendation is implemented, is it decompressed?
Yes. There won't be compression with the 7% as long as everyone gets it. I mean, that will avoid the compression. It's just, it won't put people where they should be placed. I think one point
put them ahead of where they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing. I'm not, yeah. But kind of to that point, I want to clarify and make sure everyone is on the same page. Implementing the salary study, yes, people will get more money, obviously, but it's not like here's your annual raise. It's literally putting them where they're already supposed to be earning. Does that make sense? So it's not like giving them a merit increase or anything like that. It's just acknowledging this is where in a library our size, in our market, this is what these people should be earning.
I mean, I just want to get it fixed, because my goal is to figure out the long-term financial planning of the library with capital projects like we've talked about. And if we keep punting this part down, we're never going to get to the point, I think, where we can fix that, because then we're like, oh, but we still got to do this other thing. Because I do understand that we have people that are leaving the library and it's harder. I mean, I understand all that. Businesses, I mean, I work in state government and it's crazy, but the same job in one department pays less than the same job in another department. And people will literally leave and go across the street to another agency in the state government to make significantly more money doing the same thing. I understand, and we can't get a handle on the long-term fix of revenue versus expenditures versus capital projects and saving enough money each year to spend on those capital projects that we know are coming down the road on a 10 or 15 year budget. I think this uncertainty is just gonna be frustrating, because then we'll know. When we get this, then there'll be no more excuses. There'll be no more like, oh, but we still have to do this. No, we got the pay thing done. Everybody got it. It's done. Now let's go ahead and figure out what our long-term look is. Do we need to change the fiscal year to January to December, like we talked about, to make it easier? So this or that, whatever. I just don't think we can do any of the long-term decisions until we get this thing done, because it's been going on for.
That's a good point.
I think that's very well put. I agree with that.
I saw.
Well, but we saw this coming down the road because the salary study was asked for in '22. And we asked Jason to come up with a plan to keep us solvent into the future. And that atomic bomb didn't go over very well, and we're still having the same problem that now we're trying to implement something without the funds that we really need. I think all we're doing is kicking the can down the road. We're dealing with expenditures without dealing with the expenditures to match the revenue that we don't have. You know, I have a problem with that. I don't think that that is fiscally responsible.
But I think the problem is we're spending expenditures, and when we have leftover budget, we're using it on capital without having, we don't have a revenue problem right now. I mean, we just don't. It was a mistake to, whatever, it's nothing, it was a mistake to say that the only way to fix this was to close the libraries. Because I think everything I've looked at since then has shown that it's not. We can do it without it. But we can't fix the long-term fiscal problem if we're gonna lose half our employees, or the service is gonna go down, and then people complain, and we'll never get a tax increase passed, I guarantee it. Not gonna happen, because everybody's gonna say, you mean the same people I've been watching on TV for the last 2 years at Circus? I'm gonna give them more money? I mean, they're just not gonna do it. I mean, we can all wish it, but then we have to pay $400,000 to do the election. If you lose that, then that's gone. How many people would that have paid? I think we just have to get this done, passed, and then start looking if we have to tighten our belt. And if it means we have to skip a year of rehabbing a building, then we're gonna do that until we get a long-term plan of what building needs done. I mean, I know it's there, but we don't have a plan to save that much each year right now. And I've been saying that's what we have to do, or we're gonna continually be, because we're not gonna get more revenue until the tax rate's not gonna go up. We're only gonna get more revenue if values of real estate keep going up. Because they're not gonna give us more money, just out of the goodness of their heart. It just doesn't happen.
We need to move on to a next step.
Yeah,
And I
we need to
saw
move on.
20% turnover with employees. The employees are great. I'm in Maclay all the time. My grandson loves to come there. I love to go there. Kisker, I've been to, here. And, if the 7%'s in the budget, we need to move forward. And if it's been in there since July, shouldn't it be paid? That's my opinion.
Yes.
They should be back paid to July.
Yes.
And as far as the next step, what is the next step with the salary study? What would that entail for the next thing?
Vote on these two things tonight.
What page are we on? I've got so many pages.
Agenda menu.
I wanna know what the next thing is after the study.
That's right.
Thank you.
1 and 2.
Okay.
If we're doing the one, we don't.
Implement the study.
We either do the one or the other, way I look at it.
I just think the 7% was something to.
It was, if we weren't going to implement the full thing,
I think there's enough, I think we have the votes to pass it. And if we don't, then we'll go at it, but I don't wanna sit here and give up.
Buddy's persuaded me that, that the way forward requires us to baseline the labor cost. And to defer baselining the labor cost for another month or two doesn't really get us focused on what focus should be on. So you've changed my mind.
I was ready. I was ready to talk. I was waiting until the end. But I'll tell you what.
It's my voodoo.
Way to go. Well, first off, I want to mention, almost all of my career I've worked in government, which is either great or not great. Yeah, I know. I've been through so many compensation and classification studies. I've seen this stuff done. I've had to assist with calculations and making this all work. I think in terms of what you were mentioning, this is what I was going to say before you changed your tune. But I think it's about our priorities first. And for me, it is investing in our employee base and knowing what that cost is from here on out. And then when we start to get into discussions about, where do we make these decisions on items, we know where our priorities are first. and we know where then we can look at to make those modifications, to make any deficit work. For me, though, this has been an ongoing, for I think 3 of us that are on the board here, this has been ongoing for a number of years. And what kind of transpired with the 7%, the reason why we held back on implementing it was because we were preparing to vote on the study. It was like, well, don't go through all these calculations and make all these changes when really we're just gonna go ahead and hopefully approve this. And then you gotta do it all over again. So just kind of hang tight. We had turnover in the board, some quorum issues, and so kind of here we are. So for me personally, what I would prefer to see is both of these implemented. But for me, I would want to retroactively make it effective July 1, our fiscal year. It's through no fault of the employees that we have sat here and had turnover and had issues getting quorum together. I think that way we show that we're invested in them and that they are a priority to the board is to approve the study and to retroactively make those salaries July 1. Is there any other discussion related to this item? I'll entertain any motion anyone would like to.
Let me ask a question here. There is on 20 agenda memo 25-4 salary study implementation attachment 4 talks about summary of increase options for this year. So which of these are we talking about?
I don't think it's included here, is it? Fully implementing the study as of July 1? I don't think that would be in here as an option, is it?
No, correct. So yeah, this is just sort of all the history of what, but
There's option 1, option 2, and option 3.
that was just something that came forward to the board at a previous meeting. So, and it was, so it was just included here, so you'd all have the whole history.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry, I
those aren't
missed
the
that meeting.
options that.
All right, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
In the memo 25-04, pages 4 and 5, appears to be two different products. Which is which?
The charts, you mean? Yeah. So on 4, you're seeing what would happen if you only approved revision to the salary schedule itself, but didn't move employee salaries to where they're recommended. 5 is if you did both. So really, 4 gives right, full implementation. 4 gives you a good sort of example of how far behind market we are, because if you just change the structure itself without moving the staff to the corresponding places, you'll see that 60% of our staff are earning less than the minimum for their grade. So it would be full implementation would look like on page 5.
So 4 is just if you just voted on the salary structure itself without any movement for staff, and that's where we would fall based on where they're currently getting paid.
But what could happen in that scenario is if you have a new employee get hired, they get hired at the higher rate than the person doing the same job. Absolutely.
That's where the compression.
Yes.
Yep. So
If we do just one, you get compression.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why you have to do
So
one.
it's the page 5 version that
Yes.
that would be adopted if the motion were made passed, right? Page 5?
Can we do these combined?
I think 2504 was one whole piece. I guess
It was one piece. It was structured as then 2 motions to do those 2 different things.
Yeah, review that again, because that's one of the many reasons why.
So the first piece, the approval of the revision of the policy, the salary schedule, would be doing what page 4 shows at that moment in time. So we move the salary structure, and then the second piece, the authorization to fully implement, moves all the people into that what we just passed, the salary structure.
Why would you need step 1 in order to get to step 2?
Because step 1 changes the minimums and the maximums. Step 1 is actually a board policy. So it's, and in fact, you can see it on attachment 1.
We're just gonna implement the full study and.
All right, so.
Just in one motion.
So to go from grade 6 to 34, instead it becomes A to double B.
Right, double B and the minimums and the maximums all change. So that's the structure itself. You're approving the structure itself, which is a board policy, so that's why you have to approve that.
And the second motion is to sort people out according to page 5.
Yes, yes, which we have a recommendation from the consultant where everyone would fall.
Seems like it could be presented.
I'm gonna make a
I'm not
motion.
stupid,
Well, we have a
even though that may be the impression I'm giving.
We have a motion from Trustee Hart.
I make a motion to approval of revision to policy E52 salary schedule to reflect the updated grades and pay ranges and to fully authorize to fully implement the study and adjust employee salaries as stated in the study to retroactively be implemented on July 1st, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this item?
I think it should be done as 2 separate motions.
Are we discussing it?
We're still discussing.
Yeah, I wouldn't, because if one passes and 2 doesn't.
I'm not saying I would vote again. I just think procedurally it should be done as 2 separate motions.
Made it this way, so I just think if we did it one at a time, we'd open ourselves up to pass 1 and not pass 2, because we can't sit here and do a pre-vote. Like how you gonna vote, and wink, wink. And then if the second one doesn't pass, then I would want to redo my vote on 1, because I don't want to do 1 if 1 passes and 2 doesn't. I wouldn't want to do it that way. So that's why I made the motion where it's the whole study. You just split this up on your own to write it out. It's not like this is how.
So I would say the one reason I really split it up is because policy E512 is a board policy. And it's also a policy that if we're doing this the way we should be, you're approving a new one every year because there are adjustments to it every year. The second part, this is a one-time thing, right, to implement this study. Moving forward, it's all just part of the normal performance management salary increase process.
I would retract my motion possibly. I need to know on the procedures of whatever, we don't have a parliamentarian here. Can I make a motion to pass number 1 that listed if motion 2 failed, that we would be able to revisit number 1?
Buddy, I don't think there's going to be a difference.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, well then,
Why
then
make
show
it
me
difficult?
All right.
So you want me to withdraw it?
Yeah,
Withdraw the
yep.
motion.
Okay,
So
I can do that.
withdraw that motion. So is there any
Withdraw my
minutes?
motion.
Yeah.
We make a new motion.
Yeah, all right. Direct.
I don't know, I think you gotta do the motion and the withdraw.
I make a motion to approve approval of revision to policy E512, salary schedule to reflect the updated grades and pay ranges.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. We have further discussion on this. Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The salary schedule has been approved.
I make a motion to instruct the executive to authorize to fully implement the study and adjust employee salary schedules according to the study.
Effective July 1.
Yeah, effective July 1st, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Further discussion? Hearing none?
What?
Any discussion? There's just, the library is closing.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was,
Oh, no, that's fine.
yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I still have a problem with funding this stuff. I still do. I understand that's what the library people want, and we don't have a library without the employees. I disagree with making it retroactive. I mean, it is what it is. I say we make it effective November 1st or October 15th, whatever we want to do, but I think we can't afford it anyway, but I'm willing to vote for it. I just don't think it should be retroactive. Everyone last year got a big raise. 10% is a big raise. Quite frankly, a lot of people in this country don't get a 10% raise per year, and then a 5% last year, et cetera. I think that the library's been very generous, honestly, albeit the salary structure was never implemented. I would like it to see that it be implemented in the future as opposed to retroactively.
You're welcome to make a amendment to the motion if you'd like.
Okay,
I
then.
don't agree with that because I don't see why we should punish the staff because we couldn't get together and pass the motion. So I disagree with you.
Okay, I'll offer an amendment to the motion that the pay increases that begin as of the next pay period.
So we have a motion amending the original motion to have the salary study implemented. That's what day was it?
Next pay period.
Next pay period, okay. Is there a second on that motion? Hearing none, the motion fails. We're back to the original question. Is there further discussion?
I feel it was in the budget it was in the budget for this year, so it should be paid for this year. That's my opinion. Now, as far as the salary structure, I don't necessarily know that I would agree with all of that, but we're gonna move forward with it. You know, across the board, if this is what they have to say, and we need to move forward to get on to other things. But it's been in the budget for the year. And here we are in October voting on it again, or talking about it again. So.
Just for clarification, it hasn't been in the budget since July. The 7% increase was in the budget, but not the study, well, the full study implementation, just for clarification. Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The salary study has been implemented. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. The first item is 2513, onboarding. There's a patron privacy.
Okay, and I'll be somewhat brief. We wanted, knowing that we have a number of new trustees, just take the opportunity at every meeting to just sort of bring forward a little educational component. I wanted to start with patron privacy. It is something that I think until you work in a library, you don't realize that one of the fundamental tenets of the public library is that everyone is free to determine for themselves what to read, hear, view, and that going along with that is private. And there's actually laws in all but 2 states, but there's been attorney general judgment in those 2 states that protect library records from disclosure without authorization. And we're really the only entity that's like that. So if law enforcement comes in and says, what does Matthew have checked out, or what has Matthew checked out, we cannot by law tell them. They have to be able to produce a subpoena. And I think that's really important, because that is what frees individuals to be able to check things out without fear of embarrassment or retribution or whatever. And a lot of this points back to the Red Scare and McCarthyism and all of that. And it doesn't necessarily preclude, and I know Jim brought this to my attention today, there are exceptions for imminent danger happening to someone or something like that, or if the information could prevent a crime that is happening at that moment. That's not really what it's about. There are exceptions for those things, but it's about turning over materials. So we do occasionally have, a lot of times it relates to court cases. There was one very high-profile court case that we all know about in this area where we did, there was a subpoena produced for a certain individual's records. But, so just wanted to bring that to your attention. And yeah, that's it. Is there any questions about that? All right. Yeah. Oh, yes, speaking of onboarding things, we have, I know we've all, whenever you've come on the board, we do an orientation and you're provided with materials. We've updated all of those binders, so that's what you have in front of you now, is an updated orientation binder with the most recent stuff, and we will give you pages to update it as things change.
Can I bring my old one back to you?
Yes.
Recycling.
Sure. All right. Much appreciated.
Do you need? Is there any action you're looking for on the privacy? Okay. Moving on then to, does anybody have any questions related to that? Good information to have, Jason. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 2515, authorization to be closed on Friday, April 11th.
So we do an annual staff development day, and what is in policy is that we typically do that on Library Worker or National Library Workers Day, which is generally the Tuesday of what is it? National Library Week. And so unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, but that particular date in 2025 happens to fall on an election day when the library needs to be open because many of our locations are polling places. So we checked in with the managers on what the best date would be to reschedule that, and that Friday of that week actually kind of turned out, I think, to be better because it's an 8-hour day. So we're just asking that your authorization to be closed on Friday, April 11th, 2025 for our annual staff development day.
Okay, any further
So moved.
I have a motion to approve that. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Item 2515 adopted. Last item on the new business is 2516, election of officers. This is us. Currently, I think Justin is secretary and myself is vice president of the board currently. We have vacancies in the other 2 spots, but this is the full implement of all positions on the executive board for the trustees. Is there any motions, discussions, thoughts? Anybody want to be anything?
Yeah, I move that Matthew Seeds be elected president.
I'll second that. Okay. Motion and second for further discussion.
Call the question.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no, you want
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Yep. Motion is adopted. Now, working on vice president.
I make a motion to elect Justin Collier.
Second?
President. Make a motion to, I didn't want him to hear me, so. I make a motion to elect as vice president Justin Collier.
So we have a motion by Buddy, we have a second by. We have a second by David already. Is there further discussion on that item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Congratulations, Justin.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah. All right, next we have secretary.
Mr. President, I nominate Cindy Giordano to be secretary.
Do we have a motion on the floor? A second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Congratulations, Cindy. All right, last but not least, certainly not least, is treasurer. Is there a motion for treasurer?
Everybody wants the job, huh?
I mean, I guess you could. Yourself.
I'll make a motion to nominate Buddy Harden as treasurer.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further nominations, further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it. Congratulations, Buddy. Treasurer. Okay, and those, we do elections every October, right? Annually. September.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they usually
That's right.
take office in October.
So that completes the new business. Is there any reason from the board to go into closed session? Any motion to go into closed session?
I don't know if there's anything pending.
Make a motion that we enter closed session.
Can you read the final bold?
Where's- Okay. Make a motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to state statute RSMO 610.21. Personnel.
Okay, there's a motion to go into closed session by trustee Harden. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Gardner?
Aye.
Giordano? Trustee Collier?
Yes.
Trustee Seeds?
Yes.
Trustee Tillman?
Yes.
All right. We are back into our regular meeting after closed session. If there being no other business before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
There is a
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Renee. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.